Welcome to the podcast from HeadHunters Northwest. HeadHunters Northwest, specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, HeadHunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Welcome to another HeadHunters Northwest podcast. I am very, very fortunate and am thrilled to have Mark Cherpes on the recording today, video and audio, so you can watch this and or listen to it. But Mark has been very kind to me over many years, and it's been a pleasure at every trade show to walk up and see your smiling face. And I'm absolutely thrilled you would be happy to share with our audience about you and talk about your career, because there's a lot of really interesting things that I have learned, and I know I will today with our visit, about you and what you do. So if you wouldn't mind, for those in the audience who don't know you, which are very few, if you could let them know a 30-second version of about what your career's been like and what you're doing now, and just a real high cap, I guess, about everything.
Sure. Well, first, hi, Shaylene. It's great to see you. Always great to see you. And yes, it's been many years. We've known each other and met at the shows and in my office, and really very honored to be here with you today. Thank you. So, Mark Cherpes, I've been with FN for 25 years. I was the president and CEO of FN America. I began my career in the Department of Defense early in the 90s, and worked at the Pentagon, both in the Navy office and also in the Office of Secretary of Defense. And those jobs led me to meet a lot of companies globally, and FN was one of them. And in 2000, they asked me to join, the end of 2000, beginning of 2001. And so I started my career with FN doing military business development and market studies and government relations, and moved into the role of CEO after about 13 years with the company, and then spent the next 12 years running operations in the U.S. So very, very excited to talk about all that.
Well, there was a lot of growth, and I know we're going to talk about some of that, but there were a lot of changes and improvements and very positive things with locations and all kinds of products. So a pretty big drive that you gave this organization, and a lot of people's lives were changed with the great jobs that they had because of that strategy and that leadership.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we did. We went through a lot of changes. We were very fragmented in the U.S. when I took over first became the president of FNH USA, which was a separate company, in 2012, and then merged the two organizations in 2014. And a lot of growth and a lot of cultural changes, a lot of things to do. And it was exciting. It was very good.
Well, tell us a little bit about, because this is everything that seems like you touched, or most things, were highly regulated and very politically complex. It's not a simple job. It's not just manufacturing. You've got these other factors. So what kind of drew you into this, and what makes it interesting for you? Because I know you do love the industry.
I do. I'm very passionate about the industry, and growing up, I wasn't, my father was a city boy from Pittsburgh and really didn't have a lot of exposure to the outdoors and to the outdoor industry, except for what I would do with my friends. But I have always been really passionate about getting outdoors. And so once I was exposed to the industry, I just fell in love with it, and really, from the historical aspects of the growth of our country and how firearms really shaped America at the beginning, even predating America, and to the Second Amendment and how we formed our country. It's very passionate about all that, and so I love the industry, and yes, it is highly regulated and complex. So that's for sure.
Well, being right there in Virginia, you guys were in the thick of it. You needed to be in that location. You were around all of the the movers and shakers and all kinds of activity that you needed to be at. And even with all of that activity and all of the, I guess, the pendulum that swings in our industry, you still achieved a growth rate of over 10% a year. Can you walk us through that journey and tell us what that looks like? And maybe there were some significant decisions that made that happen and made it possible. How do you achieve an over 10% growth a year? It's a very well thought of brand and company, very much due to your contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, FN traditionally has been and historically has been the defense side of the business. Our sister companies are Browning and Winchester, and they really handled the consumer side. Early in my career, we looked at the cyclical nature of the defense industry and said we can't survive on just the ups and downs that come with defense. And so one of the first decisions and strategic directions we took was to open up a consumer market. That started gradually with first going into law enforcement and then finally into consumer. And so some of the decisions we made were around how do we bring some of our iconic military products, make them acceptable by ATF standards for consumer, and bring those to the consumer market. And then some other things like our product strategy was very weak in terms of pistols. We hadn't been in the pistol market for a long time. So one of the first things I did was put together a handgun strategy on how we would recapture that market. And so that led to a significant amount of growth over that period. And I can't take all the credit. We also had some very good market years in the say around COVID, post-COVID. Those years were good, but we had to be prepared for them, and we had to be able to really execute to see that kind of growth and sustained growth.
Yeah, it's very hard to balance this industry, I think. You've got super high growth. You've been an executive during an unheard of time with growth that was just no one could have predicted with a pandemic and everything else that happened. And yet also just there have been years where our industry have just been beat to death with other regulation that no executive could possibly foresee.
Yes, that's for sure. And with the market now, even though let's say these last 2 years or so haven't been great, if you look at them compared to when I started in 2013, 2014, when I took over, very different markets and very, very, very high compared to those years. So still a lot of opportunity in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. You also led this merger of these when you talked about that a little bit. Do you want to talk about that? Because this was quite a big deal. You built this 65,000 square foot facility. How do you make all those long-term hedging bets? I guess I don't know if hedging's the right word, but in this market that we're referring to that is so volatile sometimes, and yet you did. And now look at that facility. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, we still haven't realized the full potential of that facility, but I will say that when I started, we were two separate organizations under the FN umbrella. One strictly manufacturing in South Carolina, and the other doing sales and government relations out of Washington D.C., Northern Virginia here. And there were very different cultural factors and different cultures in general with the two companies. And so first and foremost, having to merge those two, and for obvious reasons, for the advantages you get from eliminating redundancy. But boy, was that a tough challenge. And culturally, we were very different. And no, don't want to speak too much about dirty laundry, but there was some animosity between the two organizations. So I had to come in and really put us all under the same banner and carrying the flag the same direction, and change the corporate attitude and culture at both locations, and that was difficult, and but very rewarding at the end, and to see what it's become now is phenomenal. And then, of course, as we began to grow, our new product development plan was taking hold, and we saw growth and acceptance in the consumer markets. We needed the second facility, especially during the boom years, and so to start that project really was quite exciting, and we finished the greenfield development there, and we'll be using that facility to be ready for the next boom or uptick in the market.
Yeah, it's quite an undertaking. Those are very significant projects just on their own, let alone all of them combined. There's a lot of things you're talking about in a short period of time. Like you mentioned the handguns, which is good because I wanted to talk about that. That repositioning, at least from my exposure, has been very well received, and how you've been very successful with the products like the FN, the 509, and the high power reintroduction. What does it take to make that come together? Because that was a big shift and a big risk.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, luckily, FN has a good reputation, a good brand, but we had been out of pistols for many years. Oddly enough, the very first magazine fed, or one of the first magazine fed pistols, was the FN 1900, which was developed in 1900, and go on. You could go on the list, especially when John Browning was designing those pistols for FN. We were a leader in pistols globally, and culminating with the high power. And the high power was used by I can't even count the number of countries that use the high power as their primary military sidearm. So we lost that competency, and it took a lot to reintroduce that. But I think the brand was strong, and consumers started to recognize that we were listening to them. We were providing them features that were exciting, like with the development of the FNP 45 that became the FNX 45, the first factory red dot integration capable pistol, and that was pretty disruptive, and so now you see the entire market is producing pistols that can integrate red dots from the factory. That was something that we introduced early on, and then to build the portfolio out and the product portfolio, yeah, with the 509 and its predecessor, the FNS, it was exciting times, and there's still a lot of great things being done at FN, and new things that'll be coming out soon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter which trade show I go to. It could be consumer or military, law enforcement. It doesn't matter which one. If there's an FN booth there, it's full. I don't think I've ever gone to any trade show on any day, even the last day, where it wasn't packed. So no matter who your audience is, it's definitely a product that people want to know more about. I think that's just definitely a very interesting company, and it's an interesting history seeing that you have been very strategic in guiding this company. Let's change our course a little bit. So in this highly regulated industry, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There could be a single compliance failure, or a reputation event, or there's really almost any variable. How do you think that about brand protection and strategic discipline? It's not just a PR function, but how do you protect the brand, and how do you shield it when anything is capable, and it can happen to any company? There's so many people touching things and so many factors out of your control.
Yeah, certainly there is things that come up that are out of the blue, and so there is a function of crisis management that goes along with it. As they always say, prevention is worth a pound of cure, and so one of the things we do at FN is a very strong compliance team. We do regular training for our staff, not just lip service to the training or to the compliance and the importance of compliance, but really, and it starts at the top. It's a leadership leadership function that has to be visible, and people have to know that you're serious about it. We do control what's said, what's posted, all the things that can bring that compliance risk. But we had a very good compliance team that really made the difference.
Yeah. And there was a time years ago, I think this is when we worked together, which was many years ago. Sometimes brands, even FN, get attacked online unfairly. And I think one of the things that your leadership team did a really good job, from my humble perspective, was addressing the issue and changing the solution if you needed to. For example, when I worked with you, there was scuttlebutt going on about a position. And by retaining me, one of the things that happened was it took the heat off the team, and I could address that from a different perspective. And I think FN as a whole has done in the past a really good job at protecting the brand and being consistent with the branding and making sure that people knew this is where we stand. To me, that's what I've seen from the outside. And like I said, I think the reputation has been excellent because the booths and everything I've seen are always full. People are always wanting more about FN.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We definitely took a lot of that seriously. You're always going to have sort of the social media pressures. A lot of things come, and it's knowing when to ignore them, and kind of like, okay, it's better not to answer, or when to address things, whatever it was. If it was something internally, addressing it with the employees, or externally addressing it with the consumer, we always took the approach that you be honest, straightforward. If it was a mistake, you admit your mistake and correct it, or set the record straight if it wasn't. And so we spent a fair amount of time doing that. Not
Well, it just has to be answered. It's the nature of our industry. There's going to be something. And I think it is hard to know sometimes when to just ignore it and when to address it. But I think FN always remained professional to my knowledge and continues to do so, no doubt.
that was the key. It's always addressing things in a
So
honest and direct manner.
so you were the primary interface between FN and the board, FN Herstal's Belgian parent, Congress, DOD simultaneously. To me, that's intimidating. It's serious. How do you manage stakeholder confidence when every group has a different definition of what good leadership looks like? I can't even imagine how you managed all those different needs.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's about, again, direct and honest communication, and understanding what those stakeholder needs are, what they're looking for. With Congress, it's generally about jobs in the district and things like that. And so you be prepared, know what they're keying on, and executing to those stakeholder needs, because the board, Congress, DOD, they all have direct needs, and being prepared and meeting those needs is critical.
It's a lot of people that all want your number one attention and want to know that you heard them,
Exactly.
and they don't all always have the same agenda. So that I'm sure that was a handful to manage at some points along the way.
Yeah, definitely, but it's also exciting, and I've been very blessed and lucky in my career. I've worked with great people, and from every level, from DOD and Congress, and in Belgium with the board, and my sister companies, the Browning team. It's been really exciting to work with great people, and I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's well said. So, when we're talking about building leadership teams and scaling and succession, which you, I think, have quite had some great experience with, when you are hiring or promoting, what are some things that candidates don't realize you're actually looking for? What are the things that when you're looking for talent, because you had a lot of people reporting to you indirectly, but even directly, a lot of people over many years. And I'm sure that our audience would love to know what would the CEO at this level say that you look for in great talent? When you're saying I'm going to build a team, what are the traits or types of things you look for?
Yeah, well, so the first cut is always experience, right? But that's not the end all to be all. I think that we spend a lot of time evaluating on character and a person's how they would fit in with the team. Are they the right cultural fit for the company? Do they believe in what we're doing, or is it just they want a job? And so I think that the those kind of issues, the soft issues, where you're really getting to know a person as a candidate and seeing, okay, how will this person lead in this kind of environment, and where will they how will they manage their teams, and how will they interact with the other members of their peer group, whether it be on the executive committee or say the N-2 level at the director level, something like that. So it's very important.
Those are a lot of different personalities to put into different roles to get them all to work together. It's not as easy as people think it is. It's very complex to get the right people on the right team. And just when you have it figured out, something changes in someone's life externally that kind of rocks the team, seems like.
Well, and also we've had situations where we had the right people, but they were in the wrong position, and sometimes you give up on those people, right? Because you feel like they're not doing their job, and I can remember very clearly one time meeting with there's outer circles and inner circles, and I was meeting with a couple of members that I really value their opinion, and I was saying we have a problem. We actually had two individuals that were struggling at their jobs, and I remember the light bulb went on, and it says, "Well, let's switch them and put this one here and that one there," and it was amazing. They both then flourished in these new roles because they were just
Fantastic.
they were in the wrong peg, if you will, and so just getting that right was really
Yeah,
important.
that's fantastic. And fantastic that you would take the time to consciously say, oh, yeah, okay, this would work.
Yeah,
Because it's so expensive to have the wrong person in the wrong spot.
very
It
much.
just touches everything. When you think about your career, would you maybe share with our audience a decision or a moment you'd handle differently, and what did it teach you?
Yeah, I'm thinking about this. There were some decisions that were made a few years back that I knew intuitively that they were maybe the wrong decision. One was certainly around personnel, a hiring that we did, and whether it was because of expediency or because we were getting pressure to fill the role or whatever it was, I didn't quite follow my gut feeling and my intuition about that individual, and that was a mistake, and I learned very, very quickly from that it has to it not only be right but feel right, and if your gut's telling you it's wrong, it probably is wrong. And so I won't go into too much detail because people are involved, but that was certainly something I learned very strongly.
Yeah, those are hard because they're painful lessons. I think most of us have experienced something like that. And you're dealing with people, so nothing is black and white, nothing is simple because you have emotions mixed with logic.
Yeah, always.
So tell us a couple more quick
Yeah.
questions. So if you're advising a CEO or a board member right now, someone who's about to make a major executive hire in this highly regulated manufacturing environment, what's the one thing you want them to understand and that maybe most of them might underestimate?
Well, again, I think that what I said earlier, really experience is there. There's a lot of people with experience in the industry, but you really need someone that aligns with your company's values and goals and vision, and having character and whatever it is that for the position you're hiring, you really need to consider those kind of more soft traits as well, because I think that's critical, and especially when you're building a team, you need people that are going to realize that it's a team effort. Not one person isn't going to make the difference, and they need to be part of that team and really contribute to that team. So the individual is one thing, but the team is always stronger together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always recall you were always approachable, even if you're busy and I see you in the back of the booth and you're talking to a bunch of people. You're always good to make eye contact and give a quick wave. And that's teamwork starts at the top. It really does. Tell us a little bit about where you see the biggest opportunities or maybe biggest risks over the next 5 years for companies in this highly regulated space.
Yeah, well, opportunities, again, the market is as big as it's ever been. Even though it's flattened, it's still a very strong market, and I think there are a lot of opportunities in it. Where I would focus is really offering the value to the consumer. So not just here is our new handgun or here is this, but having other things around that offer value, that's bundled package. I think the consumer is looking for that. I think they like not having to buy their handgun and then go, okay, where do I find the holster now? Where do I find an integrated red dot? Where do I find this? The more you can bring value to your offering, I think that's a real opportunity, and the consumer is very, very drawn to those sort of packages. Risks, the risk is, as we stated earlier, is regulatory. This is a highly regulated industry, but now, when we see the challenge being less at the federal level and more at the state to state level, it becomes much more complex. And hopefully soon, either the Supreme Court or Congress will weigh in and really settle this thing once and for all and say the Second Amendment is the law of the land, and it was written into the Constitution for a reason. And we can stop seeing a lot of the attacks that are happening at the state level, but it's still very complex right now.
Yeah, it's hard for manufacturers to say which states are we focusing on. Are we only focusing on these 46 that this is legal, this product is legal, and what do we do with the other ones? And so, yeah, it is a lot for a manufacturer to navigate. Very expensive for them to do that. So I want to thank you for being on the podcast. But before we jump off, I want to make sure our audience knows how they can find you or connect with you, because I know you're going to be at NRA, which I'm excited because I'm hoping I get to see you also because I will be there. But you are actively working on some projects and are able to meet with people at NRA, which is only in a couple weeks. So how can people find you? Do you want them to reach out to you on your LinkedIn profile, and what's the best way for people to reach you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to NRA. It's going to be a very interesting couple days. But yes, my LinkedIn profile, it's Mark middle initial L Cherpes. I think I'm the only one in the world, so it's probably pretty easy to
Yeah,
find me that way. Also, my email anyone can reach out directly. It's mark.cherpes@icloud.com, and I would love to
super.
chat more. Anybody who wants to pick my brain or
Now, are there any projects you're working on, or is everything top secret right now? Because I'm sure you have a lot of discussions going on, or you wouldn't even be going to NRA. You could take a break. But are there any projects you want to discuss, or is it all top secret right now?
well, some of it is a little confidential, but
Okay.
I've been really focused on my passion. I'm on the board of Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, which is a great organization, and if anyone listening
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
if they
Thank
don't
you.
know that organization, please look it up online. It's wonderful, and what they do to protect our hunting and fishing and trapping and land management issues is phenomenal. The success they've had, and so I've been really spending a little bit of time focusing more with them, and that's a passion, and it's amazing. Great people in that organization. So that's some of the fun stuff I've been doing. There's been other things that I can't really talk about, but
Yeah, I bet. Well, I really appreciate you being on this podcast, Mark. It's just been such a pleasure, honestly, and I'm honored that you would take your time and share about you and your experience with the audience. I know that this is going to be a very popular podcast to listen to, and I look forward to seeing you in a short couple weeks at NRA.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much. Again, I'm thrilled and honored to be here with you, and it was great. And I look forward to seeing you at NRA.
All right. Well, that's it for this podcast for Headhunters Northwest. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at headhuntersnw.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.